Zechariah chapter 4. Now the angel who talked with me came again, and wakened me, as a man who is wakened out of sleep. He said to me, "What do you see?" I said, "I have seen, and behold, a lampstand of all gold, with its bowl on the top and its 7 lamps. There were 7 pipes to each of the lamps which are on the top of it, and 2 olive trees by it, one on the right side of the bowl and the other on the left side of it." I answered and spoke to the angel who talked with me, saying, "What are these, my Lord?" Then the angel who talked with me answered me, "Don't you know what these are?" I said, "No, my Lord." Then he answered and spoke to me, saying, "This is Yahweh's word to Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says Yahweh of armies. Who are you, great mountain? Before Zerubbabel you are a plain, and he will bring out the capstone with shouts of grace, grace to it." Moreover, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, "The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. His hands shall also finish it, and you will know that Yahweh of armies has sent me to you. Indeed, who despises the day of small things? For these 7 shall rejoice, and shall see the plumb line in the hand of Zerubbabel. These are Yahweh's eyes, which run back and forth through the whole earth." Then I asked him, "What are these 2 olive trees on the right side of the lamp and on the left side of it?" I asked him the second time, "What are these 2 olive branches, which are beside the 2 golden spouts that pour the golden oil out of themselves?" He answered me, "Don't you know what these are?" I said, "No, my Lord." Then he said, "These are the 2 anointed ones who stand by the Lord of the whole earth." All right. In the last chapter, there was a vision of Joshua. And now in this chapter, we have a vision which includes Zerubbabel. These are the 2 characters, which one was the high priest and one was the governor. These were the 2 people that came back from exile and were helping to establish the land. So there's a human level of things going on here. But I said in the last chapter that there's like a deeper level, a bigger picture, and that was in the last chapter. It was Jesus. He was the greater Joshua. Joshua was the high priest that was temporary, but it was pointing to a greater Joshua, Jesus, the permanent high priest. And in this chapter, we've got the same thing going on, the bigger picture as well as the obvious one, Zerubbabel. So the obvious picture is that, Zerubbabel is mentioned here. He lays the foundation of the temple, the house, and the word says, don't despise small beginnings. It's nothing fancy like the original temple. They're just making a start. It's a small beginning. Don't despise small beginnings. Zerubbabel started it and he'll finish it. That's why it's sometimes called Zerubbabel's temple and the second temple. And so on one level, it's human. Zerubbabel's been given God's blessing. He's going to build the temple, and he does. But there's another level, like there often is. And in this vision, he sees a picture of a lampstand with 7 branches. Now, that's the golden menorah. Now, you've often seen pictures of the golden menorah. It's a very Jewish symbol. And then either side of that, an olive branch or an olive tree. Now, these are very, very symbolic things. Now, you might think, the lampstand, that's a symbol of Judaism. Well, actually, according to the Bible, the lampstand is not a symbol of Judaism. It's a symbol of the church. We get that symbol is explained very clearly in Revelation chapter 1, where there are lampstands. In fact, in Revelation chapter 1, there are 7 menorahs or 7 lampstands. And the angel tells John, these lampstands are the 7 churches. So in the book of Revelation, we'll get to that. There are 7 churches, and there are 7 golden menorahs. In other words, 7 churches. The lampstand has been taken as a symbol of Judaism as time has gone on, but in the Bible, it's a symbol of the church. And so there's this symbol of the church with an olive tree on each side. And some people said, well, the olive tree, now that's a symbol of Israel. That's an interesting point too. I would have to say that it also isn't. In the book of Romans, chapter 9, 10, and 11, Paul is talking about Israel and the church, and he describes Israel as an olive tree. Now, in the book of Romans, there's only one olive tree to describe, but in this chapter there are 2. And in the book of Romans, he's describing Judaism, or the Jews, Jewish people, as being like this olive tree, but it says a branch was snapped off. That was the Jewish people who many of them forsook the Lord, and they were like taken out of faith, I suppose, but not all of them, but they were taken out of faith. But then there was this other branch like added into the olive tree, and that was the Gentiles. In other words, non-Jewish people like myself, and there were millions of Christians all around the world who are not Jewish, but we've been added into the olive tree. So we're not Jewish, but we're in this olive tree. The olive tree is actually Jesus. Because if you're in faith, you're in Jesus. And so as you think about that olive tree picture, you realize more clearly it's not a picture of Judaism, because Judaism itself was a branch that was snapped out. You can't snap a branch out of yourself. But if the Jewish people were snapped out of the olive tree, they were snapped out of something different to themselves. They were snapped out of God, or snapped out of Christ. And the Gentiles grafted in. So what we've got now is we have an olive tree, but it's got a bunch of different branches, and some of them are Jewish. And we're so grateful to have Jewish brothers and sisters, and there's many of them, majority of them are Gentiles or non-Jewish people, but we're all in the one olive tree. We call it the church, but actually it's Jesus. So there's only one olive tree, but in Zechariah there's this lampstand. That's a picture of the church. And there's an olive branch on either side. There's two Jesuses. And actually that's what we've got. We've got one picture is Jesus as king, and one picture is Jesus as priest. Now, I was a bit confused by that. I didn't really understand it, and I went reading commentators, but this theme did keep emerging. Matthew Henry was the one who explained it clearly, and he said, where is his comments? He said, on an earthly level, the two olive trees are Joshua and Zerubbabel, which I mentioned earlier. They're the king and the priest, or the king and the governor and the priest. But on the spiritual level, it's Jesus. Jesus is our king. He's king forever, King of kings and Lord of lords. And Jesus is our great high priest forever. So on one level, you've got Joshua and Zerubbabel, but on the greater level, we have got a king and a priest that's with us forever. It's symbolized here as two olive trees, but it's actually one olive tree because it's one person. And we are grafted in to him. So we have a wonderful picture of both these chapters, chapter 3 and 4, where the Lord is prophesying through Zechariah to these people and saying, look, I'm going to look after you. And the Lord says that to us too. If we're walking with him, he says he'll look after us. But it's also a grand picture of what God's going to do in all time. He's become our great king and our great high priest, and we've got him, and he surrounds us. We've got God on all sides of us. He's our olive tree, but he's our olive tree on both sides. And we are the church, and he is with us. Thank God.